has dribbled everywhere. Right, it has been a while since we've done an editing tutorial, and I just posted that new set of photos on my Instagram from the recent video of the training grounds. If you haven't watched that, go watch it. If you haven't seen the photos, go check them out on my Instagram. And it's this moody sort of blue look, and I'm going to show you how to do it basically, because I think it looks quite cool. Some people hate it, as they let me know on TikTok, but some people like it, so I thought I'd make a video. So this first bit, don't even try and copy me for this bit, because this is kind of just your photo. You're just adjusting these basic bits to make sure your photo is correctly exposed. Do you know what I mean? The only thing I would say is slightly lift the shadows just so we can get a little bit of that detail. You see the grills on the back of the car coming out? We kind of want them, because when we're going to darken everything later, we lose a bit of the detail. So I'd bring the shadows up. To be honest, I'd bring them up all the way, maybe halfway. And then just do your basic adjustments. So for me, it's actually exposed perfectly. So I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, because we want that dark richness to this sort of style. Pull the highlights down slightly, because it gives it that dull sense to the photo, and also just brings the reflections down a tiny bit. Then we're going to bring the whites down a tiny bit, and then we're going to bring the blacks down a tiny bit. So that first section is just to expose your photo, do you know what I mean? So you don't need to copy me on that. And then we're going to go to the texture. I'm going to add a little bit more clarity. I'm going to pull that back, and the same with dehaze. And now this is like one of the most important bits. You're going to desaturate the photo, because we need to pull everything out of it. So then when we go into the individual colours, we can basically choose like the blues or the greens or the oranges, and we can boost them up afterwards individually. So just pull the whole saturation down for now, go about halfway down, and then pull the vibrance down a tiny bit as well. Then I've got the tone curve. Did I do the original one? I don't actually know what this first one does. I think this one does like all the colours and everything, so I don't really remember what I did with this. Shall I check? No, I'm not going to check. I'm just going to do a standard S-curve, because that's what I see other people do. I don't actually know how to use this. I just move it around. But I do know how to use it when it comes to the colours. But this one, I just kind of do whatever. So I normally do this, and then I bring a little bit at the bottom here to bring that up like that. But then when we go into these bits, this is where we can actually start to play around with the colours. So you see this blue? That's what we want. That's what we want into this photo, along with that green and that orange. So we want to push them and pull them in those colours. And the top end of the tone curve is the highlights, the bottom end is like the blacks and the shadows basically. So you can just choose what ones you want. So for me, I'm going to go more of that blue, pull that down here at the top. So like a reverse of the S-curve, we're going to pull that in there. And then we're going to grab this side, and we're going to pull that back up a little bit so it almost mixes into a bit of an orange pinky section, because you just don't want to go too much, because if I just pull this down as well with the blues, then that's just stupid. So I like to counter it. So we'll pull that back up a little bit. I'm going to put a little point there so that stays where it is, and then we'll fade that up slightly there. And then this one, I'm going to pull them up to the more green side and keep both of them up here, and then pull the bottom part down. I'll try to get it to mix in nicely somewhere where it doesn't look too stupid. Put that there, and then pull that up there. And then for the blues, this is the main one, because that actual preset has that blue tint in it, so this is one where you really need to be careful. But the blue is on the top side, so it should be relatively easy. I'm going to pull this up till I get not too much, that's too much. I like to go too far and then pull it back, so we'll go about there. And then what I'm going to do is pull the mid-tones back, because I want a little bit of the orange still in the photo, but I don't want too much where it's like completely orange. And then I'm going to put a little point there. Let's pull it up a little bit actually. And then we'll pull the fade up at the bottom to just bring up that bit of a wash over the photo. Actually, I could pull this up a little bit more into the blues. Where is it? There it is, the mid-tones. The whole thing is just a case of pulling these around. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with them half the time. I just move them around until it looks cool. But those are the ones that I've gone for. So if you want to copy them, go for it. But they're probably not the same as they were in the actual preset. Then, this is where I'm going to pull out the colours that I don't want. So I don't want greens. They can fuck off. Don't want them. I want blues, but not too much. So I'm going to pull them slightly, and I'm going to pull the other blues. We'll boost the oranges a little bit, and the reds. And then from here, you can just change the hue. So like the greens can be more rich, or they can be more pinky sort of looking. So I like to go this way with the reds to get the headlights popping a little bit more. And then I'm going to go the blues that side a little bit more to the darker side, oranges down to the darker side, and then the luminance I'm not going to touch. So that's all like the basic colours, tone curves, adjustments that we've done. This I actually think works better than the tone curve, these little colour wheels, because I don't know, I could just pinpoint and get that fade. Like, you know, you see a photo like the one I'm about to show you, where you have that wash of colour across the whole thing, this is where you normally get that from. So the main thing is just this top one here. Wherever you put it, it's going to change that whole fade across the whole image. You see what I mean? Obviously this is a bit dramatic. We're going to do less than this. But this top one is just going to decide what colour fade is across your whole image. So for me, we want that slight blue, greeny one. So we're going to pull that here. Now we're into the shadows. Obviously, you want to do something different to what you've just done. Because if I just do blue on blue, it's getting too much. So I'm going to counter that with the orange. What did I do? I can't remember even know what I did. I think it was the orange with the greens. I think it was like a mix about there. And then the highlights is just obviously the shiniest parts of the car. So that, I'm not going to go too crazy with that. I might even go slightly the same as the other one. And then I actually might come back up to the contrast and put a bit more contrast into it and bring the shadows down a bit more. I want that darker feel to the actual picture. So from there, I'm going to come down to the camera calibration. And we're just going to move a couple of things around just to make sure we've got the colours that we want. So I just slide these about, nothing too crazy. I'm looking at the back greens there, I'll pull them there. We'll pull that there. Yeah, we'll get the orange back on that. And then I might maybe add a bit more saturation. I don't know how much. Let me just see. No, we're going to keep the saturation out of it, and we're actually going to pull down the exposure of the photo a little bit more. No, actually no, we'll keep it where it is. Because what we're going to do now, so that's like the basic colours. That's kind of how you get, like, let's have a look at the before and after. There's the before. There's that blue tint, moody sort of look to the photo. But what really makes the whole thing pull together is actually adding adjustments. So we want to make this as dramatic as possible. So for me, this is all shadows here, right? We've got the wall here, we've got the lamppost here. It's all really dark and moody. And I don't like this section here. You see how this is like exposed past that lamppost? I don't like that. I'd rather that just be cut off and the back end of the Audi was poking through this gap. So what I'm going to do is, I was going to do that linear gradient, but we'll actually do this first because that's caught my eye. So we're going to brush this as much as we can so it's all covered, and then we're just going to pull the exposure all the way down. So it's literally, and pull the contrast all the way up, shadows, blacks, let's desaturate it as well. We just want to get it completely out of the way so you can't see that it was a actual piece of the car. It just looks like it was part of the lamppost. So let me just scrub all that out. Scrub this bit out down here. So now that looks like it's just a straight gap and I've shot for a fence. That looks a lot cooler because it's not distracting me now. Now we can add the linear gradient, which I already did, but whatever. Now we can pull that in from the bottom. So what I like to do to all my photos is add like a shadow side and then add a light side. So like, so this light right now that I'm filming this video with, that light is coming onto me here and the shadows are here. So we're going to do that with the photo. It doesn't matter if the sun isn't actually there either, because you can just move it anyway. So the sun is actually coming from this back left point, but I'm going to pretend that it's coming from this top right point. So let me just add the shadows as if the sun was coming to the back of the car. So we'll pull that down about there, and now the sun obviously is coming from this top left bit, but I'm going to pull it down from this top right bit so it comes at an angle. And now I'm just going to lift the exposure of it, so there's a bit more brightness coming into it. Where's the dehaze? The haze adds like, well, it adds haze, so I'm going to add a little bit of haze to it, and then I just like to turn it orange, so then we'll add an orange tint, and then I might bring the highlights down and the shadows down a little bit, and it's just going to make that nice, and maybe the exposure down a little bit as well. It's just going to give you that nice little contrast to the shadow side and then the light side coming from there. And then what I might do is the little car trick where you can pull all the shadows and the details out, but then darken it down. So if I just select the subject right now, say I want the car to be darker. I don't know why it's selecting the background, but let's just ignore that for now. So I want this car to be darker, right? But if I just darken it on its own, I'm going to lose all the shadows and all like the little vents that I could see earlier. So what you do is you do this first mask, just shadows all the way up. And obviously that looks a bit ridiculous, but it's fine because now we do another subject select mask, and now we just pull the exposure down. So before it was just no shadows lifted, whereas now the shadows are fully lifted on a separate mask, but now we're going to pull this exposure down on this one and it's going to merge it together. So you can see the details, but it's still a bit darker and just looks a bit cooler. So yeah, with all the colours and the adjustments, you should be left with a photo. Let's look at the before and after, like that. So we've got that nice cold blue tone coming over it, but it's also a bit darker, a bit moodier. We've cut that lamppost off, and it's got that nice tint over it. So that's how you do it. It's relatively simple. It's just a case of moving the blues and the tone curves in. I probably haven't matched it completely to the preset. The preset does a better job than actually me editing. So yeah, that's how you do it. If you don't want to learn from the video, just go to the description. My preset pack's there. 25 presets, 5 categories. Job done. All right. Subscribe, and I'll see you later.